On this day in history, March 29th, 1461, the Battle of Towton occurs. Edward of York defeats Queen Margaret to become King Edward IV of England, bringing a temporary stop to the War of the Roses. Included in the following is an excerpt from the 1944 edition of the Encyclopaedia Britannica, going over the history of Towton. Towton, a village in the West Riding of Yorkshire, England, 2.5 miles south of Tadcaster, the scene of a battle fought March 29th, 1461, between the armies of York and Lancaster. The party of Lancaster had won the Battle of St. Albans, but, unable to gain admission into London, and threatened by the approach of Edward, the young Duke of York, from the west of England, was compelled to fall back northward. York, having been proclaimed as Edward IV, followed them up into Yorkshire, and on the 27th his leading troops surprised the passage of the Aire at Ferrybridge. The Lancasterians were encamped at Towton, some miles away, covering Tadcaster and York, but a force under Lord Clifford was promptly set out, recaptured Ferrybridge by surprise, and cut to pieces the Yorkist garrison. About the same time, however, Edward's van, under Lord Falkenberg, an experienced soldier, crossed the Aire higher up, and Clifford was compelled to retire. He was closely pressed, and at Dintingdale, within a few furlongs of his own camps, was cut off and killed with nearly all his men. Edward's main body was now close at hand, and the Lancasterians drew up on their chosen battlefield early on the 29th. This field was an elevated plateau, with steep slopes between the present Great North Road and the River Cock, cut in two by a depression called Towton Dale. On opposite sides of this depression stood the two armies, that of York facing north, their opponents southward. Both lines of battle were very dense. On a front of little more than 1,000 yards, the Lancasterian party had nearly 60,000 men. Edward's force, less than 50,000, was not at all present, the rear battle under Norfolk being still distant. Snow and sleet blew in the faces of the Lancasterians and covered the field of battle. The skillful Falkenberg used this advantage to the utmost. Aided by the wind, his archers discharged flights of arrows against the enemy, who replied blindly and feebly, hampered by snow and wind. The Yorkists withdrew until the enemy had exhausted their quivers, and then advanced afresh. Their arrows soon stung the Lancasterians into a wild and disorderly charge. Suffering severe losses, the latter closed with Edward's line of battle. No quarter was given by either party, and on the narrow front, the numerical superiority of the Lancasterians counted for little. The long, doubtful, and sanguinary struggle was only decided by the arrival of Norfolk's corps, which charged the enemy in flank. Driven backwards and upwards, the Lancasterians were in a desperate position, for their only way of escape to Tadcaster crossed the swollen waters of the Cock by a single narrow and difficult ford, and when, after a stubborn struggle, they finally broke and fled, they were slaughtered in thousands as they tried to cross. At the close of the day, the defeated army had ceased to exist. 25,000 Lancasterian and 8,000 Yorkist dead were buried in and about Towton.